Morning, everybody. Sorry about the slight delay. Uh, we were having a bit of a technical issue, but I'm here now. So welcome to the Q&A about sharks around the UK. If you have got any questions, please do post them today. We've already had some in, so I'm going to try and answer those. I've got some lovely beach ranger elves working away, busy helping me research because some of the answers I might not know. I just wanted to do a massive shout out as well to the Sharks Trust, uh, an amazing conservation charity who we do use their resources for the Great Egg Case Hunt. That's one of their citizen science projects. So any information you want about that project, you can go on to all other projects that they have. Why don't you visit their website and Facebook? I know they've got some live videos coming out too shortly. So yeah, welcome. Let's get started. So first question that I've had in, and this was off Rory, who is age 9. He asked, how can you swim safely with dangerous sharks without them attacking you? So firstly, something to clear up is that generally sharks, although there has been incidents of sharks being involved with people, we'll say, they don't mean to really bite someone. It's not something they do intentionally. There's a lot of what we say sensationalizing in the media about shark attacks, and it's just a mistake. So sharks generally, I like to think of them as puppies who feel with their mouths. So they're kind of going around, they'll come across something they're unsure of. They may have a feel with their mouths, and that might result in a bite. That being said, I wouldn't suggest just jumping straight into the water with some sharks, any species of sharks. What I will say is, if that was something that you were keen to do, I'd suggest finding a professional organisation to do it with. But make sure it's one that's very conservation focused, rather than just using sharks as a tourist attraction. Must apologise if you hear any squeaking. My own little shark has just brought his Ray toy in, and it's very squeaky. So yeah, apologise for any background noise there might be. Another question from Harry, age 5, was, what is the biggest shark that we get in UK waters? So that would be a basking shark, and they are absolutely amazing. They can grow up, I think the biggest one that's been seen is 12 metres in the UK waters. We haven't been seeing them as much recently, and we're not quite sure why. There was another question as well from Emily, age 9, about the oldest sharks that we might get in the UK waters, and that is also the basking shark as well. I think they can live up to about 50 years. Cool. So, how can you tell if they're male or female? So male sharks, they have claspers underneath. A lot of the time they might only use one at once, but yeah, that's how you can tell the difference. They have 2 claspers underneath the pair. Okay, so what about great white sharks in the UK? That again from Emma, age 7. So why do we not have them if the water temperature is right? So it's tricky. They don't really know why we don't have great white sharks and whether or not there was the potential to have great white sharks. So a lot of people think it could be something that happens in the future, or perhaps that we have actually had them before. But hang on one second, I've just realised it's just told me that I'm on sideways. So hopefully that is better. These technical issues we will get through. This is our first time doing anything like this, so it's just a bit of a learning curve as well. So thanks for your patience and sticking with us. Cool. So, as I was saying about great white sharks in UK waters. So, yeah, we don't know why we haven't got them, but one theory is, well, there's several theories out there. So one aspect would be because, I mean, where the great white sharks are now, they've got their food, they've got their habitat, so why would they make the journey up to our waters? If they're sort of well set up, if you will, then why would they change and migrate? It's quite a distance for them to travel. So yeah, why would they make their way up here? You might have heard before in the media, some people think that we have had great white sharks in the waters around here. It's a mistake. We think it is a mistake, and generally people get them mistaken for Makos or ball beagles. So yeah, but there is research happening with environmental DNA, and they're actually looking into whether sharks, great white sharks, or have been in UK waters. So yeah, so we'll see if they find any of that out. Cool. So next question that was posted the other day: do all sharks have two uterus or uteri? And if so, why? So this was one I really didn't have a clue about, so I had to research it the other day. And from what I found out, yes, all sharks do have two uterus. I couldn't really find out why. There wasn't really anything there about why. But I did find out that in some species of sharks, an embryo will actually leave one uterus and swim into the other one to feed on the sort of unfertilized embryos and unfertilized eggs. So there can be some sort of cannibalism that takes place within the womb of the shark. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so other question. Mako sharks. So someone asked how fast a Mako shark can travel. And can it outdo a speedboat, I think it was. Excuse me 1 second. I'm just going to have a swig of water. So from my research, a Mako shark can go up to about 60 miles per hour. So yeah, they are the fastest shark in the world. And we do get them in UK waters, which is pretty cool. They're quite an impressive shark. Another question, so relating a bit more back to the eggs. Do all sharks lay eggs? And the answer is no, they don't. So there's 3 different types of sort of breeding, if you will. So you get the shark species, sharks, rays and skates, that do lay eggs. But then you also get certain species that actually have eggs internally, and that way they can protect that embryo from predators. And then they'd give birth to, the egg would hatch while it was still inside the mother. But you also get species that give birth to live young as well. And they tend to come out and they completely have to fend for themselves. They're completely on their own, unlike mammals, which is pretty cool. So another question was most commonly found mermaid's purse or egg case that we find around Cornwall. So not really sure is the complete honest answer to that one. We find a lot of cuckoo rays and spotted rays. It tends to be more spotted rays, but also the nurse hound and the small spotted cat shark. We find a lot of those, which is really cool. Someone also asked, what would you do if you found an egg case with the embryo still inside? And the best thing to do would be to put it back in the water and try and weigh it down with something. Because obviously we really want that embryo to hatch. And the reason why the Sharks Trust have started this citizen science project is to study what species that we find, but also to protect them. Because, I mean, there's 40 types of British sharks and 18 species of rays and skates. But unfortunately, scientists have said that about 50% of those British sharks are actually threatened or near threatened. So obviously, that is a massive, massive issue. And we are, helping support the Sharks Trust with that research because we want to make sure those species are protected. And that's why it's really important to send in that information to the Sharks Trust when you do find your egg cases, because then they can keep up to date with what species that we're finding. Fab. Moving on from there. Just sort of looking at some of the questions now. We've had some questions about hammerhead sharks. So, question, do we find hammerhead sharks around the UK waters? So, hammerhead sharks, they're actually a warm water species. Again, like great whites, they're more likely to be here as the temperatures rise, but great whites unlikely to have their own niche. So yeah, unlikely to get some hammerhead sharks around here, which actually would be amazing because I think they're one of my favourite hammerhead sharks. They're absolutely beautiful. I don't know what your favourite shark is. Maybe let us know if you have a favourite. Should you have to pick one? Who knows? So, how long do sharks live for was another question. It really does depend on the species. Obviously, there's such a massive variety of species that we find all around the world. The oldest shark that was found was actually a Greenland shark, and that shark was supposedly thought to be about 400 years old, which is incredible. Generally speaking, in the wild, they live about 20 to 30 years, or some of the smaller species might be more like 12 to 13 years. So it really, again, really just depends on the species. How long do sharks get? So how big do they grow? Again, massively, massively dependent on the species. There's such a huge variety. I think that'd be something to have a look into, depending on what the shark is that you really want to learn about. Because I could be here all day going through different lengths of sharks. Not that I know them all, and I could just spiel off all different lengths of sharks, but it's definitely a good thing to look into. Okay, so how do sharks rest/sleep if they have to keep swimming? So some species of sharks, they actually rest on the seabed, and they do this by pumping water over their gills, because obviously they've got to keep that water moving. Unlike in that film, I don't know if anyone ever seen it was it the Deep Blue Sea, where the shark swam backwards. Never seen anything like that before. So yeah, they do need to keep that water pumping over their gills. But there is around 24 species, including great whites and I think Makos, that do have to keep moving. So that's, just something that they have to do. Is there a difference in size between males and females? Yes. Females, like in many marine animals, tend to be bigger. And that's because they kind of have to be, because they are, they will be carrying young and for reproduction purposes. So, someone asked for some facts about whale sharks. So, Celtic Sea, whale sharks, biggest fish. They are the biggest fish in the world. Their spot stripes are unique to the shark, so they can be ID'd like a fingerprint, which is really cool. Like a basking shark, they're filter feeders, so they haven't got any teeth. So they filter plankton, small fish, and shrimp. Thought to be able to live to about 100 years, which is incredible. I've never seen a whale shark. I don't know if anyone out there has had the pleasure of... I know some of my friends have got some beautiful photos and videos of them snorkeling with whale sharks, and it looks absolutely incredible. So, if you were one of those lucky people who've got to swim and snorkel or dive with them, maybe send us a picture, because I'd really, really love to see that and be incredibly jealous. So do sharks eat the bones of the fish as well as the flesh, and do they spit them out afterwards? Just waiting for the answer to that one, I'm afraid. Sorry, my Beach Ranger Elves. Apparently the screen has gone green for me. Can still hear you though. If you can post if you can still see me, that'd be great. That'd be really, really good. So another question while we're waiting for the answer about the do sharks eat the bones? How do sharks communicate? Which is actually really, really difficult question to answer, because it's not something, because they don't vocalize, it's not something that is easy to research and that has been done a lot of research on it. So they think that from studies that have happened that they can communicate through body language. I suppose like we do, but obviously we can verbalize as well. So body language, but also tail slaps as a kind of warning for other sharks to move away from their food. So the question about the bones of fish as well as the flesh, or do they split them out afterwards? So far, don't know. We're just looking it up. But we've got another question. Can sharks jump out of the water like dolphins? Now, yes, they can actually jump out of the water like dolphins. It wouldn't necessarily be for a beautiful, like a display like a dolphin might put on, because they're very acrobatic. Certain species of dolphin, like a bottlenose and a common dolphin. But not to go on too much about dolphins, because today we're talking about sharks. But yeah, they do. They will jump out of the water. It might be in the midst of a feeding frenzy or whatever. But there is some, and if you haven't seen it before, have a look, have a Google, have a look online. There is some amazing pictures of sharks jumping out of the water, and some of these sharks are pretty big as well. But yeah, they can jump out of the water, but again, it wouldn't be just an acrobatic display. So going back to the question, sorry, about the sharks eating the bones. Yes, they do, but it's hard for them to digest. So they do eat the whole fish, but it's quite difficult for them to digest it. Cool. So keep those questions coming in because we're enjoying it. I'm just having a look if there's any more questions that were given to us earlier that I can answer. Oh, how long does it take for an embryo to grow? I mean, that again can differ a lot from species to species. Excuse me. Gotta keep hydrated. But the longest sort of gestation period is thought to be 31 months, which is an awful long time. When you think about a human being, it being 9 months, that is a massive difference. Cool. They do, going back to the digesting, it's hard for them to digest. So in a stressful situation, like they're being harassed or hooked, they've been known to regurgitate the hard to digest bits, making it easier for them to get away. Oh, so that's an interesting fact. Thank you, Jack, Speech Ranger Elf, for adding that bit on. It's fantastic. So how fast can great white sharks swim? From Jay, 35 miles per hour, apparently, in short bursts, but usually around 25 miles per hour. So that's pretty fast. So we're doing really well. Fab. So keep those questions coming in, just to let you know that we are going to be stopping at 10:30. So if there's any questions that we don't manage to get to in that time, please feel free to leave them in the comments on the video and we will go through them and answer the questions. We're also hoping to do some more of these live Q&As. I promise I won't be sideways next time and that the video will start when it's meant to. So you can always tune into those and ask us again, but we will try and get through those comments. Also, please don't forget that, if you're an artist, photographer, whatever, if you've got any pictures or you want to draw a picture or paint a picture of some sharks raising skates, some of our fantastic local species, please send them in to the Beach Rangers Messenger. We want to see them, we want to share them, we want everyone to see them because I can't draw. So I'm really happy to share other people's beautiful drawings. So yeah, please do send them in to us because I think that's another thing. We've got some really good questions coming in about all kinds of species, but the fact that we should remember is how many species that we actually have around the UK waters and how a lot of people don't tend to realise that. And obviously it's not there to be something to, I know some people find sharks quite intimidating, but actually it's just something really incredible. And it's something that definitely needs to be celebrated, that we are so lucky in the UK to have such amazing species. And when we do get to go out again, when we get to go out and about again, let's all get, maybe we'll be lucky enough when we're snorkeling to come across a nurse hound or something. We got to keep being ready for the hotter weather and being allowed outside again. So, do we get tiger sharks in the UK? No. Like great whites and hammerhead sharks, they are very much a warm water species. But we'll have Lucy Harding, a researcher studying tiger sharks, for our Q&A on Monday, the 20th of April. So from Monday, we're doing a Monday Meet the Expert Mondays, which is really exciting. So these are going to be different researchers that work in sort of shark research, shark conservation. So Lucy is a researcher studying tiger sharks. So make sure that you're there to ask Lucy some questions about tiger sharks, which is really exciting. So is a whale shark bigger than a blue whale? No. Blue whales grow up to about 25 meters, whereas the whale shark grows up to about 10 meters. So yeah, the blue whale is the biggest animal that you find in the sea, as far as we know. I forgot as well, there was a question that was posted earlier on about the megalodon shark and why that went extinct. So there's several theories about that. They don't really know for sure. Sorry, I nearly missed your question. So one theory was that they just got out-competed by smaller, nimbler sharks, so you could get to the food quicker. And the other was about the temperature, so they wouldn't be able to adjust to adapt to those warming temperatures. So yeah, so Megalodon, like it's quite, always makes me laugh how many times when I'm out and about doing different events, how many times Megalodon gets brought up, because they are such an amazing, thing to think about, aren't they? That once lived in our oceans. So yeah. Oh, I've been asked what's my favourite shark and why. Well, that's tricky. I don't like having to pick my favourite things, because I always feel somehow that I'm going to offend other things. My favourite shark. I mean, basking sharks are really cool. I'd love to see a whale shark as well. They just look like big, gentle, giant puppies. Yeah, it's tricky. It's a real tricky one. What's your favourite shark and why? I want you all to tell me. And I can have a ponder, and I'll try and think of a definitive answer of what my favourite shark is. Yeah, good. Yeah, good question. That stumped me, that one. So, are all sharks cold-blooded? Mostly, but not all. Some, like the Mako and Great White, are warm-blooded and increase their body temperature for quick bursts of speed. Wow, now I didn't know that, so thank you, Jax, Beach Ranger Elf, and Jodie, for your amazing research here. Yeah, I didn't know that, but that is absolutely fascinating. So I don't know if you know the difference between, so if something is warm-blooded or cold-blooded, so it can be an endotherm or an ectotherm. So human beings, we're endotherms, and that means we can self-regulate our body temperature and our core temperature. Whereas ectotherms, such as lizards, they need to bask in sun to warm up. They can't internally change their body temperature. So, and I think Jax wanted to share that her favourite shark is wobbegong. Which is, I hadn't heard of this shark until yesterday, so I had a look at it, and it is, if you haven't seen a wobbegong, you should have a look online and get a picture up of them, because they are brilliant. Right, so we've got 1 minute left, so now I've got to actually think of a definitive answer for my favourite shark, and I'm going to pick a Mako, and I'm going to pick a Mako because I've seen one. And because they're really fast and well adapted, and they're torpedo-shaped bodies, and they're often mistaken for great whites. So, I don't know. I just like them. So I'm going to go with a Mako. So, Lee Chaddock, his is a tasseled wobbegong, apparently, his favourite shark, which is, it's good to know. Thanks, Lee. Hopefully see you rock pulling soon. Right, well, thank you everyone for tuning in today. I hope you found it useful and informative. Like I said, keep those questions coming in and post them on the comments or send us a message. Any pictures you got going on? Yep, send them those too. We'll have more videos going out next week. So Wednesday, Thursday. And we've also got our Meet the Expert Mondays. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.